Beelink sent us a review unit of their latest SER5 Mini PC with an AMD Ryzen 5 5560U processor, and they listened to some of our feedback. This one is actually pretty good. In the box we get two HDMI cables, 25 cm and 100 cm, a VESA mount to install a mini PC at the back of a monitor, screws when installing a 2.5-inch drive, a power supply and a user manual, as well as a hard disk installation guide. We have 6 cores and 12 threads, 16 GB of RAM and 500 GB of storage. At the front, here you can reset the BIOS. We're getting two USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports with 10 gigabits per second each. The USB-C port is only USB 2 with a transfer rate of 480 megabits per second. We're getting a headset board. This is a TRS connector combining microphone and headphone. The power button also has a white LED. At the back, we're getting gigabit Ethernet from a chip from Realtek. The top USB is another USB 3.2 Gen 2 with 10 gigabits per second. The bottom one is USB 2 with 480 megabits per second. Two HDMI 2.0, they both can do 4K 60. Here goes the power supply, and this is where the hot air from the cooling comes out. There are 4 screws at the bottom. This gives us access to the machine. We can see the 2 memory slots, a 500 GB NVMe SSD, and we can also upgrade the hard drive with a 2.5-inch SATA drive. They listened to us in regards to the memory. Dual channel configuration is what you want in these APUs. It will give you much better performance, especially to do with the graphics. We have 2 8 GB modules from Crucial running at 3200 MHz with a CL of 22. The 500 GB NVMe SSD is from Kingston. Here are the results from the Crystal Disk benchmark, and yeah, they are very good. I installed a 500 GB 2.5-inch SATA SSD from Crucial, and here are the results. We're getting almost 560 megabytes per second when reading. Apart from gigabit Ethernet, we're also getting Wi-Fi 6E from a MediaTek controller as well as Bluetooth. Upstairs, connecting to the router which is in the kitchen, we're getting just under 50 megabytes per second of transfer rate, and testing downstairs on the same floor as the router, just under 70 megabytes per second. So now let's run a few tests. The machine comes with Windows 11 Pro. I connected to my home network and ran all the Windows updates. Then I installed the latest AMD chipset and graphics drivers, and I set the power mode to best performance. In Cinebench R15, we're getting 1247 for the multi-core test and 206 for the single-core test, and this is the highest single-core result that I've seen from all the mini PCs in the past. In Cinebench R20, 2944 points for the multi-thread and 501 points for the single-thread test. And in R23, we're getting 7,590 points for the multi-threaded score and 1,297 points for the single-thread score. Next, I ran Cinebench for around 20 minutes, and we can see the clock speed settles in at 3.08 gigahertz. In terms of temperature, around 71 degrees with a max of 72.6, and I used a power meter. At the wall, the machine consumed only 34 watts. Running the single thread tests for around 20 minutes, the clock speed is really high. 4.04 gigahertz is what the single thread will run at. In terms of temperatures, they are lower, 58 degrees usually with a max of 62, and the power consumption at the wall only 18 watts. And what you can't see in the video is the noise or the lack of noise compared to the mini PCs in the past. This one is really quiet. When you turn on the machine the first time, the fan will go full speed and it's quite audible. But even when running Cinebench for 20 minutes, this is one of the quietest mini PCs I've had on the bench. Let's check out performance in games. We've got AMD Radeon Graphics. Here are the specifications of GPU Z. In CloudGate, we're getting 17,960. In Skydiver, 9,837. And in Firestrike, we're getting 2,757. Let's run a few games and we can see something really interesting. First, we have Strange Brigade with the Vulkan API, 1080p with medium details, and yeah, we're getting around 30 FPS, a little bit below, but this is actually pretty impressive. But what is really impressive is if we look at the clock speeds for the GPU, it is locked at 1600 megahertz. So unlike mini PCs in the past that were losing frequency with the GPU, this one stays at the maximum clock speed for the graphics, which is exactly what you want. We have a mini PC where the CPU is much stronger than the GPU, so we want the GPU to run at the maximum speed all of the time. This is Rise of the Tomb Raider. Again, we're running at 1080p, but this time with low details. This game is a little bit more demanding, just under 30 FPS, but this is still a pretty impressive result for a computer with integrated graphics. If you want to play some games on this machine, I recommend you try some older games. For example, Dirt 3. This is running at 1080p with high details, and we're getting around 100 FPS, which is silky smooth. And games that are even older, well, they just run fantastic. This is Portal running at 1080p with all the details maxed out, and we're getting over 100 FPS. So older games will run really well on this machine. The latest and greatest games, you will definitely have to lower resolutions or details, but yeah, thanks to the Radeon graphics, gaming is something you can do on this machine. So all in all, I'm really happy with this mini PC. The processor is the latest generation, so we're getting high IPC, excellent single-threaded performance, and multi-threaded performance is also very good. I like that the unit is quieter than past units and it doesn't consume too much power either. I like that they went with dual channel memory, that's good. We're getting a fast storage with over 2 gigabytes per second of read performance. A total of 3 10 gigabit USB ports is also nice. If I had some recommendation for Beelink to improve on this unit, it's swapping out the Wi-Fi 6 card from MediaTek to one from Intel, and then we get even better Wi-Fi performance. In terms of prices and availability, I will put some links down below in the video description. I believe the unit will sell for around $400 US. So you need to decide if this is worth it to you and also assess the situation in your market and your area. But in terms of technical specifications, the machine checks out. I can definitely recommend it. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section and I shall see you soon with another one.